The Vrox Empire had ruled the Orion Arm with an iron grip for over 3 centuries. Their sleek obsidian warships descended upon one civilization after another, giving each the same ultimatum: surrender or be obliterated. Most chose surrender. Those who resisted became cautionary tales, their home planets reduced to asteroid fields. Admiral Krell, Supreme Commander of the Vrox expansion fleet, stood on the command bridge of the inevitable conquest, his 4 eyes surveying the tactical display with cold satisfaction. 27 species had fallen before him, their resources harvested, their populations enslaved. The Vrox physiology, tough exoskeletons and redundant organs, made them natural warriors, but it was their technological superiority that ensured their dominance. Admiral, his second-in-command Draz reported, "We've intercepted communications from the Sol system. The humans are developing new defensive capabilities." Krell's mouthparts clicked in amusement. Another species that thinks they can resist. How predictable. The humans had been an anomaly in the Empire's expansion. When first discovered 50 years ago, they were assessed as primitive and scheduled for later conquest. But intelligence reports indicated rapid technological advancement that concerned some Vrox strategists. Humans had unified their system after detecting Vrox scout ships at the edge of their territory. Their primary warship, designated Defiance, appears to be their technological flagship, Draz continued. It carries a weapon system of unknown capabilities. Unknown capabilities. Krell's dorsal spines stiffened. Impossible. Our technology surpasses all others by centuries. Yet the intelligence couldn't be ignored. Orbital scans showed extensive construction in Earth orbit, and encrypted transmissions mentioned something called Project Quantum. Whatever the humans were building, they believed it could stand against the Vrox. "Prepare the fleet," Krell commanded. "The humans require an education in humility. We will add their world to our collection and their supposed weapon to our trophy hold." Across the galaxy, 16 worlds under Vrox occupation received the news with desperate hope. The legends of human ingenuity had spread through underground resistance networks. Some whispered that Earth had been spared initially for a reason. The Vrox feared something about the humans they wouldn't admit. On the mining colony of Proxima II, a human slave named Tom Miller looked up at the night sky between labor shifts. The stars seemed dimmer under Vrox rule, but somewhere out there, Earth still fought for freedom. Tom had been captured during a deep space mining operation 5 years earlier. "They're coming," whispered his fellow prisoner, a Centaurian named Pell. "The free humans. They've built something the Vrox can't understand." Tom smiled despite his exhaustion. If there's one thing humans are good at, it's finding ways to fight back when cornered. The Vrox battle fleet assembled. 53 capital ships, 200 destroyers, and countless fighter craft. It was the largest concentration of Vrox military might in a generation. Krell gave the order, and the armada entered faster than light transit toward Sol. The conquest of humanity would cement his legacy as the greatest Vrox commander in history. He had no idea he was sailing into the greatest trap ever conceived. General Marcus Drake stood at the viewport of the Defiance, Earth's most advanced warship, watching as his fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Arcturus system. 37 ships, the entirety of Earth's interstellar navy, arranged themselves in perfect formation. Drake knew they were outmatched in raw numbers, but humanity had always survived through innovation rather than brute force. All ships report successful transition. General, Lieutenant Anna Reed announced from her tactical station. "The Vrox haven't detected us yet." Drake nodded, his weathered face reflecting decades of military service. At 62, he was considered young for his position, but the war with the Vrox had accelerated many careers. "Deploy the sensor buoys," he ordered. "Let's see what we're up against." Arcturus had been the first human colony to fall to the Vrox 3 years ago. Now it served as a forward operating base for the alien empire, with shipyards and supply depots fueling their expansion. Intelligence suggested the main Vrox fleet had departed recently, heading toward Earth. Sir, Communications Officer Tom Wilson reported, we're receiving signals from the surface. It's the Resistance. Drake authorized the secure channel. A holographic image appeared, a thin woman with determined eyes. This is Major Lisa Bell, Earth Resistance. We've waited a long time for this, General. Good to see humans still fighting down there, Major, Drake replied. What's your status? We've infiltrated their central command as planned. Most of their ships left 2 days ago, but there's still a defensive force of 15 capital ships in orbit. Drake smiled grimly. 15 against 37. I like those odds. What the Vrox didn't understand about humans was their adaptability. When the aliens had first been detected by Earth's deep space telescopes, humanity hadn't panicked. They'd prepared. While maintaining a facade of primitive technology, Earth's unified governments had poured resources into Project Quantum. The Defiance wasn't just a warship, it was a test for technology that defied conventional physics. And now it was ready. Signal the fleet, Drake commanded. Execute Operation Sunrise. The human ships accelerated toward Arcturus, their advanced stealth systems keeping them invisible until they reached the upper atmosphere. When they finally appeared on Vrox sensors, it was too late. The battle was brief but decisive. Human vessels moved with impossible precision, their targeting systems finding weaknesses in Vrox shields that shouldn't have existed. Within 2 hours, the Vrox defense fleet was reduced to debris, and human landing craft were streaming toward the surface. Drake led the ground assault personally. As his shuttle descended, he marveled at the scorched landscape that had once been humanity's first extrasolar colony. 3 years of Vrox occupation had turned forests into industrial complexes and cities into labor camps. When the shuttle doors opened, Major Bell was waiting with her resistance fighters, a ragged but determined group armed with a mixture of human and stolen Vrox weapons. Welcome to Arcturus, General, she said, saluting. I hear Earth has built something special for our friends. Drake nodded. The Vrox think they're about to conquer Earth. Instead, they're about to meet the Quantum Annihilator. But first, we need to liberate this world and establish our forward base. As human forces spread across the planet, freeing slave camps and neutralizing Vrox strongholds, Drake received an urgent message from the Defiance. Sir, Captain James Ward reported, our long-range sensors have detected the Vrox fleet approaching Earth. They'll arrive in 72 hours. Drake's expression hardened. Then we have 72 hours to prepare our welcome. Earth knows they're coming. Now we need to make sure we're in position for the second act. The liberated colonists joined the war effort immediately, their hatred of the Vrox overcoming years of oppression. Humanity had arrived at Arcturus not just as liberators, but as harbingers of the Vrox Empire's downfall. The counterattack had begun. Dr. Helen Miller had spent 15 years of her life on a theory that most physicists had dismissed as impossible. Now, standing in the control room of the Defiance as it orbited a liberated Arcturus, she watched her impossible theory become reality. Quantum field alignment at 98%, reported engineer Joe Taylor, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. Power draw is within predicted parameters. Helen nodded, brushing a strand of gray hair from her face. At 57, she had sacrificed everything for this moment. Her marriage, watching her children grow up, even her health. The radiation exposure during early tests had left her with chronic conditions that required daily medication. But if the Quantum Annihilator worked as designed, it would all be worth it. Can someone explain exactly what this weapon does? Asked Major Bell, who had joined the command staff after the liberation of Arcturus. General Drake turned to Helen. Doctor, it's your creation. Helen activated the central display, showing a simplified model of subatomic particles. The Vrox have superior technology in almost every way. Better shields, weapons, propulsion. But they have one fundamental weakness. Their entire technological infrastructure relies on a specific quantum configuration. The display zoomed in to show vibrating energy patterns. Every Vrox system, from their largest warship to their smallest communicator, uses quantum fields tuned to the same frequency. It's why their technology integrates so seamlessly. It's also their vulnerability. She manipulated the display to show a cascade effect. The quantum annihilator doesn't destroy matter. It alters the quantum state of targeted systems. It's like changing the fundamental rules of physics, but only in a specific area, and only affecting specific quantum signatures. Major Bell frowned. In simple terms, it turns off their technology, Helen said bluntly. Ships, weapons, shields, life support, everything just stops working. The bigger and more complex the system, the more catastrophic the failure. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. The Vrox don't know about this weakness because no other species had developed quantum manipulation to this level, Helen continued. We've kept the project completely compartmentalized. Every component was built on Earth with no digital footprint. General Drake checked the tactical display. The Vrox fleet will reach Earth in 24 hours. We'll be there in 18. The fleet we defeated here was just a fraction of what's heading toward our homeworld. Captain Ward spoke up from his command chair. There's one critical detail we haven't mentioned, Major. The quantum annihilator requires enormous power, more than the Defiance can generate alone. That's where Operation Sunrise comes in, Drake explained. The 37 ships in our fleet aren't just warships. They're power conduits. Each contains a quantum entanglement node linked to the annihilator. When activated, they'll form an energy web, channeling power from 37 different points in space simultaneously. Helen added the final, crucial detail. The effect has never been tested at full scale. Simulations show a 78% chance of success. If it fails, she didn't need to finish. Everyone knew that Earth would fall if the weapon failed. Doctor, Drake said quietly, how large an area will be affected? Helen took a deep breath. At full power, the quantum disruption field should encompass approximately 1 light minute in all directions from the focal point. The tactical officer whistled. That's large enough to capture their entire fleet if we position correctly. Final preparations moved at frantic pace as the human fleet raced back toward Earth. Engineers worked around the clock, checking and rechecking the intricate quantum entanglement network that would power the annihilator. In her private quarters, Helen reviewed the equations one last time, searching for any error that might doom humanity. Finding none, she opened a small locket containing photos of her children. We're coming up on our final jump to Earth, Doctor, announced General Drake over the intercom. It's time. Helen closed the locket and straightened her lab coat. Humanity had one shot at this, one chance to deploy a weapon that existed only in theory until now. As the Defiance prepared to jump, Helen whispered to herself, either we make history today, or there won't be anyone left to write it. Admiral Krell stood triumphant on the bridge of the inevitable conquest as the massive Vrox fleet emerged from hyperspace near Earth's moon. The blue-green planet hung before them, ripe for conquest. Pitiful, he remarked, noting the seemingly meager orbital defenses. They've concentrated their forces around their homeworld rather than defending their colonies. Tactically unsound. Admiral, his sensor officer reported, we're detecting unusual energy readings from their orbital platforms. Krell dismissed the concern with a wave of his upper limb. Human technology is primitive. Prepare the standard conquest broadcast. Throughout the fleet, Vrox crews readied themselves for another easy victory. Their weapons systems powered up, shield generators hummed, and invasion craft prepared for atmospheric entry. The choreography of conquest was familiar after so many worlds had fallen. The standard ultimatum was transmitted to Earth in multiple human languages: surrender unconditionally or face extinction. Earth's response came not as a message, but as an event. Space rippled behind the Vrox fleet as 37 human warships emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. At their center was the Defiance, its hull glowing with building energy. Admiral, the tactical officer shouted, human vessels have surrounded our rear position. Krell's mandibles clicked in irritation rather than alarm. So they wished to die with some semblance of honor, target their flagship and... He never finished the order. Aboard the Defiance, Dr. Helen Miller gave the final authorization. Quantum field aligned. All power conduits open. Initiating annihilator sequence. General Drake nodded grimly. Execute. For a brief moment, space itself seemed to bend around the human fleet. A wave of distortion. Invisible to normal light, but blazing across quantum sensors, expanded outward at relativistic speed. Aboard the inevitable Conquest, systems began failing in cascading sequence. First communications, then weapons, then life support. Emergency backups attempted to engage but suffered the same fate. Across the massive ship, every piece of Vrock's technology simply stopped functioning. The scene repeated across all 53 Vrock's capital ships and their escorts. Propulsion died. Artificial gravity failed. The most advanced fleet in the galaxy transformed into powerless hulks drifting in space. Admiral Krell, illuminated only by emergency chemical lights, watched in disbelief as his mighty armada went dark. For the first time in his long career, he felt fear. On the Defiance, the bridge crew erupted in cheers as sensor readings confirmed total success. Every Vrock ship had been neutralized without a single shot fired. Open a channel to all Vrock's vessels, Drake ordered. Helen watched as the general's face appeared on every still-functioning screen aboard the disabled Vrock ships. "This is General Marcus Drake of Earth's Defense Force," he stated calmly. "Your technology has been neutralized by our quantum annihilator. Your ships are powerless. You have two options. Surrender, or we will be forced to destroy your vessels. You have 30 minutes to decide." The human fleet moved into position around the drifting Vrock ships, weapons locked but holding fire. Aboard the inevitable Conquest, Admiral Krell faced the unthinkable: defeat. Without functioning technology, his biologically superior warriors were trapped in metal coffins. Reports filtered in through manual communications, life support failing, injured crew from sudden gravity loss, no possibility of restoring power. How? He demanded of his science officer. How did primitives develop this weapon? Unknown, Admiral, came the reply. The quantum principles involved would require understanding beyond anything we believed possible for their species. Krell stared at the image of General Drake, trying to comprehend how thoroughly he had been outmaneuvered. The humans hadn't just developed a new weapon. They had identified the fundamental basis of Vrock's technology and crafted its perfect counter. Within 20 minutes, the first surrender signals came. Manual light flashes from Vrock ships, using an ancient galactic distress code. The balance of power hadn't merely shifted, it had been completely upended. The species that had conquered 27 civilizations found itself at the mercy of what they had considered primitives. As human boarding parties secured Vrock's vessels, Drake turned to Helen. "What happens now?" She looked at the tactical display, showing thousands of Vrock ships across the galaxy, suddenly vulnerable to a weapon they couldn't counter. "Now," she said quietly, "we liberate the galaxy." 1 year after what became known as the Battle of Sol, representatives from 32 species gathered in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly Hall on Earth's moon. The massive transparent dome offered a spectacular view of Earth rising over the lunar horizon, a powerful symbol of hope for formerly subjugated worlds. General Drake, now serving as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Assembly, stood at the central podium. Beside him was Dr. Helen Miller, looking healthier than she had in years thanks to medical technologies recovered from Vrock's databases. "Today marks the anniversary of liberation," Drake began, his voice carrying to delegates representing billions of sentient beings. "But more importantly, it marks the beginning of a new galactic order, one built on cooperation rather than conquest." The assembly hall had been designed to accommodate physiology from across the galaxy: aquatic chambers for water-breathing species, high-gravity sections for those from dense worlds, and atmospheric customization for every delegation. In the front row sat Admiral Krell, now serving as the representative of a much diminished Vrox presence. The defeat of their fleet had led to a rapid collapse of their empire as oppressed worlds seized the opportunity to overthrow their weakened overlords. The quantum annihilator has been secured, Drake continued, addressing concerns that had dominated interspecies discussions. Its technology will not be used as a weapon of conquest, but as a guarantor of peace. This announcement was met with mixed reactions. Relief from some delegations, disappointment from others who had hoped to acquire the technology for themselves. Tom Miller, now a captain in Earth's diplomatic corps after his rescue from Proxima II, watched from the human section. Beside him sat Major Lisa Bell, her resistance leadership experience making her invaluable in peacekeeping operations across former Vrox territories. "You think it'll last?" Tom asked quietly as Drake outlined the proposed galactic charter. Lisa shrugged. "Peace always requires more work than war. But for the first time, the various species are talking instead of fighting. Under the new charter, Earth would not claim dominion over former Vrox territories. Instead, a council with rotating membership would govern collective defense and trade. The quantum annihilator would remain Earth's technology, but a multi-species oversight committee would ensure it was never misused. In the science annex adjacent to the assembly hall, Helen supervised a different application of her discovery. Freed from weapons development, she had redirected quantum field manipulation toward medicine, environmental restoration, and faster-than-light communication. The same principles that disrupted Vrox technology can repair radiation damage on conquered worlds, she explained to visiting scientists. What we built to end a war can now rebuild civilizations. Not everyone embraced the new order. On the edges of known space, Vrox hardliners who had escaped the initial defeat gathered their remaining resources, seeking countermeasures to the annihilator. Various factions saw opportunity in the power vacuum, and piracy increased along former empire boundaries. To address these threats, the Assembly established the Joint Defense Initiative, a multi-species fleet using standardized technology that wasn't vulnerable to quantum disruption. Human engineers worked alongside former adversaries, creating defensive systems that could protect recovering worlds. General Drake concluded his address by unveiling the Assembly's most ambitious project, the Restoration Corps. This organization would deploy resources to heal worlds stripped by Vrox mining and exploitation, using recovered technology to accelerate ecological recovery. "The true measure of our civilization will not be how we won the war," Drake stated, "but how we build the peace." As the session ended, Admiral Krell approached the human delegation. The once proud Vrox commander had aged visibly since his defeat. "You could have annihilated us," he said to Drake, mandibles clicking softly. "Why didn't you?" Drake considered the question carefully before answering. "Because the goal was never to become what we fought against. Humans have a long history of terrible wars. Admiral, we learned that victory without reconciliation only guarantees the next conflict." Krell's four eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of contemplation in Vrox body language. "My species will need generations to understand this perspective, but perhaps that is the point." As the delegates dispersed, the Defiance, now serving as a diplomatic vessel, prepared to depart for a tour of newly liberated systems. Captain James Ward had surrendered the military title for envoy, and the ship carried scientists and aid workers instead of Marines. The weapon that had won the war remained secured deep within Earth's moon, its technology both a deterrent against future aggressors and a reminder of humanity's responsibility. The quantum annihilator had shifted the balance of power, but it was human restraint and victory that offered the galaxy its first real hope for lasting peace. From his viewport on the lunar base, Tom Miller watched ships departing for distant worlds, vessels from dozens of species traveling together. The stars seemed brighter now, full of possibility rather than threat. The human warship's hidden weapon had changed everything, not just through its power to defeat an empire, but through what came after, the choice to use victory as a foundation for something greater than conquest. That was humanity's true strength, and now the galaxy would learn what it meant to build rather than destroy.